Hey everybody, this is Ryan McClanahan with historythroughcards.com. I hope you're all doing very well today. In this video, I want to tell you the amazing story behind Joe Sewell. And Joe Sewell is one of those players that he's really well known for maybe one thing. I'm not going to tell you what that is. You have to listen to the articles, but you'll catch on. I know you will, and you're going to be absolutely astounded when you hear what he's really known for. Um, this card actually it's a 1926 Spalding Champions or a 1926 Sports Co. of America, and I'll show you something really interesting about this card. As you can see right there, this card is autographed, and I'll show you the back of it just in case you guys have not seen these before. They're not the easiest things in the world to find, and they can be a little bit on the more expensive side. However, with this particular card, Joe Sewell signed quite a number of these, so they are in the hobby. And the reason why is because the owner of Sports Co. of America, what he did, I think, in lieu of payment, was he sent each player or sports personality, because it is a multi-sport set, he sent them about 500 cards in a box. We know that there were three individual baseball players who signed for fans throughout their lives these specific cards. They actually used them as like business cards is basically what they used them for. They'd signed them, and so Joe Sewell, he lived long enough to sign these cards right up until he passed away in 1990. And so we do have quite a number of these cards that are autographed by him. The other players that I'm aware of that signed these cards specifically was Max Carey and Robert Moranville. Robert Moranville passed away in 1954, and I forget exactly when Max Carey passed away. I think it was in like 1972 or something like that. But he was 91 when he passed away, and he's got an amazing career. I have another card of his. I mean, just in case you guys can't find this particular card, this is a great set. It's one of my favorites, and it's because of the photography and the design, which I really enjoy. But if you guys can't find one of these, I can understand. Um, I don't really come across them much. I have seen a few of the Babe Ruth cards in this set, and I would love to own a 1926 Spalding champion, Babe Ruth. But again, I'd also love to date a movie star too, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. Well, you never know. I always say, like, follow your dreams, right? If you want to date movie stars, go ahead. Anyway, he's also in the 1933 Gaudi set as well, and this may be a little bit easier for you guys to track down than the Spalding champion. It's not a bad card. I don't think that he has a whole lot of cards to begin with. He had a career spanning from 1920 to 1933, and so it's it's a decent career. I don't want to ruin it for you guys, but I'll show you the back of this too. This is why I got this card pretty cheap. It was this stain right here, but I didn't really care. I really wanted the card, so sometimes you have to make concessions, if you will, or considerations on do you want the card or do you not? Do you want the player in your collection, and then maybe you can upgrade later on? And I just never upgraded. It's all it was. But I really enjoy the card. I enjoy Joe Sewell's his life and his story. I think is really fantastic, and I wanted to share that with you guys today. So without further ado, let's get on to Joe Sewell's story. This is from the Bristol Herald Courier, March 9th, 1990, Bristol, Tennessee. No one could talk about Joe Sewell like Joe Sewell by Jeff Brown. Perhaps no one could tell the story of Joseph Wheeler Sewell's life as well as Sewell. This grand old man of baseball, 91, a member of the Baseball Hall of Fame, died Tuesday at his son's home in Mobile. I could write a book on him. He was an interesting man, said L.C. Foots Parnell III, Sewell's grandson. Mike Sewell, sports editor of the Tulsa, Oklahoma Tribune, did write a book partly about Sewell. The Pitch That Killed told the story of the fatal beating of Cleveland Indians shortstop Ray Chapman in 1920 by New York Yankees pitcher Carl Mays. Sewell was brought in to replace the popular Chapman. Sewell said Sewell was proud to have skipped into a difficult situation and helped the Indians win the American League pennant and World Series. Sewell almost didn't play professional ball, Sewell said. He and brother Luke, both medical students, and Riggs Stevenson, an Alabama law student, were playing semi professional ball when they turned down an invitation to a Philadelphia Athletics tryout. Their manager, Ward McDowell, offered some advice that changed their lives, Sewell said. You three kids are great natural ball players. Joe, you're not good material for a doctor. You haven't the personality. The same goes for you, Luke. And as for you, Riggs, if you make a lawyer, I'll make a balloon jumper. Now listen to me. There's a fortune waiting you in baseball. Take my advice. Change your minds about your careers and let me see what I can do for you, Sewell recalled McDowell saying. All three made it to the major leagues. In 14 seasons with the Cleveland Indians and New York Yankees, Joe Sewell was one of baseball's all-time greatest contact hitters, striking out only 114 times. In 4 seasons with at least 500 at-bats, he struck out 4 times or less. He set a record by not striking out in 115 consecutive games. His plaque in the Hall of Fame cites Sewell as the most difficult man to strike out in the game's history. Sewell was a teammate of Babe Ruth. He roomed with Lou Gehrig. He often shared tales about those players, including Ruth's called home run in Wrigley Field in the 1932 World Series against the Chicago Cubs, Parnell said. One of his favorite stories was how one of his plays in that series forced baseball to rewrite its rulebook. Sewell was playing third when a Cub dumped a bunt along the line. Sewell knew he couldn't throw out the runner, so he dug it in a trench in the ground with his foot. The ball hit his excavation and rolled foul. Friends and family described Sewell as friendly and outgoing. Sewell recalls the kitchen counter in Sewell's Tuscaloosa home was buried under stacks of mail in 1985. His attitude towards others might best be typified by his friendship with Ty Cobb, generally remembered as a crude and hateful competitor. He was one of the few people I know who liked Ty Cobb. Sewell said of Sewell, he said Ty Cobb was misunderstood. Sewell became Alabama coach at age 66 in 1964. Tommy Limbaugh, now an assistant football coach at Kentucky, played for Sewell and became a graduate assistant coach. Limbaugh recalled a poor batting practice at Alabama that raised Sewell's ire. He was 67 years old. Ken Stabler was pitching batting practice. Sewell got so mad he grabs a bat and tells Stabler to throw the ball in there and don't let up, Limbaugh said. Sewell hit 5 consecutive line drives. He said, now that's how you do it, Limbaugh said. He really was a great hitting instructor. More important, he was a great man. He was the best storyteller I've been around. At the same time, he had so much wisdom in those stories. Sewell was born in Titus, Alabama. His wife of 63 years, Willie Veal, died in 1984. This is from the Miami Herald, March 8, 1990. Baseball Hall of Famer Joe Sewell dies at 91. Mobile, Alabama. Joe Sewell, whose career began in tragedy, became one of baseball's best hitters and a Hall of Famer. Sewell, holder of a .312 lifetime batting average and several records for fewest strikeouts during a 14-year season, major league career, died Tuesday afternoon at age 91 at the home of his son, Dr. James W. Sewell. The cause of death was not disclosed. His rise to major league stardom came in the midst of a tumultuous season under circumstances never endured by a player before or since. Only a few months off the University of Alabama campus, the 21-year-old Sewell was rushed into the Cleveland Indians lineup in the heart of a pennant race after the club's regular shortstop, Ray Chapman, became the only player in Major League history to be killed during a game. Chapman, a 29-year-old veteran who had starred for the Indians for 8 seasons, was struck by a pitch thrown by Carl Mays of the New York Yankees and died a short time later. Sewell filled in brilliantly, batting .329 over the final 22 games as the Indians won the American League pennant by 2 games over the Chicago White Sox. Chicago lost 8 players in the last weeks of the season when the infamous Black Sox betting scandal came to light. Cleveland went on to defeat Brooklyn in the World Series. While the circumstances may have been tragic, 1920 was a banner year for Sewell, who played on 3 championship teams. Alabama captured the Southern Intercollegiate Athletic Association title. His minor league team at New Orleans claimed the Southern League crown, and the Indians became world champions. Sewell played 11 seasons with Cleveland, his best being 1923 when he batted .353 and drove in 109 runs, both career highs. In 1931 he moved to the Yankees where he roomed with Lou Gehrig, and a year later played on the last championship team of the Babe Ruth era. Like Gehrig, baseball's all-time Iron Man, Sewell didn't believe in taking a day off. He played in 1,103 consecutive games, the fourth longest streak in baseball history, and like Gehrig, Sewell took an uncommon route to the big leagues by first going to college in a day when many players lacked even a high school diploma. Sewell was perhaps the best player baseball ever produced at putting bat to pitched ball. His 114 career strikeouts and 7,000 career at bats averages out to 1 strikeout per 63 at bats, or 1 strikeout for about every 16 games. He set and still holds records of 3 strikeouts in a season in 1930 and 1932, 115 consecutive games, and 437 at bats without a strikeout in 1929, and fewest career strikeouts by an everyday player. Sewell, who batted over 300 in 10 seasons, was elected to the Hall of Fame in 1977 and also is a member of the Alabama and Ohio Sports Halls of Fame. A native of Titus, a rural hamlet about 30 miles north of Montgomery, Sewell was a student body president at the University of Alabama in 1919 and graduated a year later. He was a star on the school's baseball team, leading the Crimson Tide to 4 straight league titles. Two brothers, Tommy and Luke Sewell, also played at Alabama before moving on to the big leagues. Tommy played briefly with the Chicago Cubs in 1927, and Luke spent 20 years with 4 American League teams. As manager, Luke Sewell led the St. Louis Browns to their only pennant in 1944. In 1964, at age 66, Joe Sewell returned to Alabama as baseball coach and led the Tide to the Southern Conference title in 1968. As a coach, he had a 7-year record of 114-99 with teams composed mostly of walk-ons. He also had a long career in public relations for Dairy Fresh, a position he held until his retirement. In addition to his son, Sewell is survived by a daughter, Elsie Parnell, of Birmingham, 10 grandchildren, and 14 great-grandchildren. I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall for that 1920 World Series against the Brooklyn Super Bars. I think they were the Super Bars back then. The Dodgers actually didn't officially become the Dodgers in name until 1932. Before that, they were like the Brooklyn Ball Club or something stupid like that, or they just made up all sorts of kinds of names. Anyway, so the really interesting thing I think here is Joe Sewell had a amazing career, and he's in a book, obviously, as the author said, but it's partially about him, and it's mostly about Ray Chapman and his passing. And Ray Chapman's not the only ball player to die on the field. You do have Doc Powell, but that's a little bit different story. That's like 1909. He's actually on the T-206, and he died after eating what they say was a cheese sandwich. He may have died from like gastroenteritis or something like that, but he had died basically on the field. And then you have another minor leaguer as well who died from a pitch, a beaning. Ray Chapman, his story though is probably should be covered in another video because it's absolutely fascinating. It's horrendous, truly. From what I've heard in the press about this, because I did read some articles at the time, Fred Lieb was actually down in I think he was down in the press room or something like that. He was not on the field, but he said that he could hear that and you could hear a pin drop. So Ray Chapman, he passes away, uh, and from what I heard, I think it took like a day or two. Just an absolutely horrendous thing. And I'm not gonna like describe the whole thing here. That's gonna obviously gonna be another video. But can you imagine being Joe Sewell in that situation? And Joe Sewell, I don't think he was up in the majors at that point in time. He was afterwards, but just knowing that you're the fill-in for the guy who got beamed in the head, and it's one of the reasons why Carl Mays is not in the Hall of Fame. Like, if you look at Mays's stats, he's definitely a Hall of Fame worthy guy, but he's not in there, particularly I think because of the beaning, but also because Carl Mays is a complete dinkweed to everybody. Not a very nice guy at all. There's a lot of players who are not well liked by the media who are in there. And Ray Chapman, he was actually ready to retire anyway, had he not gotten beamed in the head. He was really well into business, and so he was going to continue on with his business. And unfortunately, that's neither here nor there, I guess. But it's just the fact that Joe Sewell, he's got to have a great bunch of stories that have been just not told. And I would have loved to see like a manuscript or something about his stories or even a book or something out there. And I think that would be like really amazing. And I would have loved to have seen him play if I had a time machine, a flying DeLorean, if you will. And one of the things I think I would go back in time and watch a bunch of these players play the game, just kind of like sit in the stands, take notes, and do my nerd thing. And so I think that he obviously had to have some great stories about the Yankees in like the 1930s, and just what he had seen on the field and being a part of Babe Ruth's college shot. Now, we don't actually know what happened exactly during Babe Ruth's 1932 college shot. There's a lot of speculation there. There's a little bit of film footage that they found several years ago, but it's still unclear as to what was going on then. And everyone has a different take on it. So you have the Yankees who have one take on it, and then you have the Cubs who have another take on it, and then you have fans as well. But nobody can really get together and say, this is exactly what happened. He's pointing at something, but it's not entirely clear what it is, if he's actually calling his shot or if he's actually pointing at the Cubs because they're taunting him so much. We just don't really know, and I'm not sure we're ever really going to know. It's one of the mysteries of baseball, if you will. But again, Joe Sewell was there, and the other thing I think is really impressive about Joe Sewell was that, um, again, he had 114 strikeouts, and as you can see from his statistics, one thing that I'm a little unsure of is his on base percentage, and his obviously they say he's the greatest contact hitter of baseball history. It's got to be true. He's not a home run hitter, that's for sure. I think he had like 49 home runs during his career, and that's okay. I have no home runs, but then again, I didn't play Major League Baseball. And Nellie Fox, he didn't hit a whole lot of home runs either, and Ozzie Smith didn't hit a whole lot of home runs either. So, but the thing is, like with between those two guys, Fox and Smith, they're in different generations. His statistics are a little bit different, I think. It's a little strange to me. So I'm seeing those 114 strikeouts. Can you imagine though? Like think about this. He's only striking out 3 or 4 times a year. Just incredible. And he's having, regular games too. He's a full season while doing this. And it must have been something for a pitcher trying to like get this guy out. They must have had bets on the side or something, like I bet you like he's not gonna like strike him out, if you're another player. But I don't know. I mean, Joe Sewell is one of those players that he's not really I don't think he's really talked about much these days. Um, and a lot of people don't really know his name. And in fact, I came across this when I was at the National in 2022 in Atlantic City. I was talking to a dealer and I mentioned Joe Sewell's name. And I was like, hey, while you have a chance, look up his statistics. He's only got 114 strikeouts. And the dealer was like, yeah, right, sure. But then when he actually looked, he was like, "Oh my God, how do I not know this guy's name? Like, he's incredible." And so the dealer was really, he was thrilled first off, and like that's one of the awesome things about collecting vintage sports cards is that you get to learn about these players too, and see what their careers were. Sometimes they can surprise you, like Joe Sewell. So this is one of the reasons why I really love doing this. I don't particularly care for the medium, as I've said before, but I like to share little hints of knowledge. And, I kind of wish that somebody had did that for me when I was first in the hobby as a teenager. And I had to kind of learn this stuff along the way. There weren't a whole lot of people who knew this stuff, but again, I did have a great group of older collectors that kind of took me under their wing and showed me the ropes of the hobby. And now I think it's kind of like my turn to do that for other people, to show them the ropes of the hobby and who the players are and the cards as well. And so, kind of like paying it forward, if you will. And I don't mind taking up that role at all. Now it's my turn to do this for you guys, and I'm also learning as well. So anyway, guys, that's my rant for today on Joe Sewell. I hope you really enjoyed this and learned maybe something a little bit you didn't before, and now you guys can go and do that for somebody else. And so again, guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate it as always. Give me a like and subscribe so videos like this can go out to people who may not know who Joe Sewell is. And again, I will talk to you later in another video, and I hope you have a good day. See you later, guys. Thank you.